Good morning. It is Wednesday, April 18th. I can't believe it. It's going by so quickly. And you're here live with Java with Jerry, as always, coming to you from the penthouse suite of Stadium Center in the Platinum Triangle, right across the street from Angel Stadium. And we're glad you're here with us. We have a packed show with lots of information for you. And we're always happy that you share your Wednesday morning with us, those of you that are watching live. If you're not, you can always get it at orangeslice.com, and we encourage you to go there. You can sign up to see past videos. And you can also just enroll in Podbean and have it sent to your device, and then you can listen to it as a podcast when you're exercising or walking the dog or doing chores around the house. So lots of ways to enjoy Java with Jerry. What's on the show today? As always, I'll have commentary on a few news stories, and then our guest is a friend of mine and one of my neighbors. We could throw a rock and hit each other's home in Tustin, and that's former council member Jim Palmer. He is the president and CEO of the Orange County Rescue Mission and so much more, and we're going to talk about all the issues of importance in homelessness today. Jim has spent a career dealing with these issues, and he's just brilliant at it. So we'll have lots of information. Plus, he's got a distinction nobody else has had, and I'll tell you about it when I read his bio. So that'll make you just stay tuned just to hear what the distinction is that Jim has. All right, lots of stuff to get to, so let's start with the commentary on the national news. First, we have to start with the sad recognition that we lost a First Lady and a woman of grace yesterday when Barbara Bush passed away at the age of 92, surrounded by her family in Texas. It's so sad to see that happen. She was really the matriarch of a political dynasty, a wife to one president, a mother to another, and father and mother to two governors who served, and a family that does a lot of public service, because I think Barbara insisted on it. She thought each of them should get a quality education and then do good work, and so we're sad to hear of her passing. She was a lovely woman, and many of us are saddened by her loss, so had to recognize that. Other national news. The IRS website crashed yesterday on tax day. Of course it did. Anything the government does, right? So they were very nice to you. They gave you until midnight tonight to get your taxes in. So if you couldn't get in because it was crashed out and you couldn't file online, first of all, don't wait until the last minute. But hopefully you got your taxes in. We want you to share all of your resources with Uncle Sam, because he will certainly add it to the pile of stuff he's doing. Anyway, they got it corrected apparently, and you have until midnight tonight to get them filed. And it's the last time you'll be filing under this system. Next year, you're under the Trump system, and for 90% of us, they say, that means it's going to be streamlined filing. I'm not sure if that's true for all of us that are watching, but it's certainly true for a whole bunch of our neighbors, and that's a good thing. So we'll see next year what it's like to do the filing. State news. April 22nd is Earth Day, and the California theme this year is, let me get this right, ending plastic pollution. Well, remember, we got a big jump start on that 4 years ago when we became the first state to ban single-use plastic bags. That's why you got to drag bags to the grocery store. And it's thematic this year. They're going to do plastic as a theme for their legislation as well. So let me tell you some of the pending legislation, because California is getting a head start on this ending plastic pollution for Earth Day. By the way, Earth Day is April 22nd, if I didn't mention it. You will now have to ask for a plastic straw when you go to a restaurant, because we're going to pass a bill that says you just can't get a plastic straw. You have to actually affirmatively ask for it, because plastic straws are bad. And you'll probably get dirty looks when you ask for it from all the other diners, because they'll know you're not very earth-friendly. They're also proposing legislation, another bill, to make sure that single-use plastic bottles, those little plastic caps on top, have to remain tethered to the bottle. So there'll be some device that keeps them tethered to the bottle when you screw the top off. We can't have you detaching it and letting that get into the landfills, I guess. Finally, another piece of legislation will prevent all fast food packaging from having anything that isn't recyclable material in it, so we can save the landfills in the ocean. So there you go, California. You are desperately in debt. You have an acute housing shortage. You have trillions of dollars in unfunded obligations. You got a deteriorating infrastructure, substandard education system, rampant poverty, homelessness, the highest taxes in the nation, and the most excessive regulations, but you're working overtime for Mother Earth. So how golden is that? All right, local news. George Kokorian, the famous movie theater mogul who sold his empire to Regal Theaters, is selling his home now in Palos Verdes. So catch this, those of you who are shopping for a place to live. It's on a bluff overlooking the ocean. It's 11,000 square feet, boasting 5 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. Got to have 9 bathrooms. It's got a lot that has amenities on it that rival any resort. It's going to be all yours for just a shade under $24 million. Chump change for big spenders like you after tax day. So there you go. Sports. All right, I have to put this in here because, I'm a UCLA football nut. Does Josh Rosen, our UCLA quarterback, go in the early rounds, or does he start to tumble now to later rounds because of how he's being maligned? There is some discussion among pundits that Rosen, known to be cerebral and a millennial who asks a lot of questions, he has an attitude of having to know why, may be too short in stature and too millennial for the NFL, and that he might tumble to the 10th or 12th pick in the NFL draft. Say what? Have you ever watched this kid play? Have you ever watched him throw a frozen rope through multiple defenders and hit the wide receiver on the numbers? Did you watch him scramble in many fourth quarters and bring the Bruins back from the brink of disaster to a victory? Somebody go watch some tape on this kid. Josh, we're behind you. You should go in the high rounds. Anyway, somebody please go watch some tape. All right, that's your Java news for today. Let me bring my guest in. Jim, why don't you come on set? And while Jim Palmer is getting settled, let me tell you a little bit about him. I can only tell you a little because, welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
Good to have you. I can only tell you a little because his resume ought to be done in chapters, right? So there's just too much that he's done. Dr. Palmer has dedicated his life work to helping those in need. He has a professional focus on creating long-term self-sufficiency and stability for the least, the last, and the lost, and he has certainly done that for decades. He goes beyond traditional temporary solutions to really trying to address the underlying causes of terminal and chronic homelessness, and we'll talk a little bit about the differences in the model he employs from those that are certainly in fashion today. Under his leadership, the Orange County Rescue Mission has received national recognition for a success rate of clients graduating and entrepreneurial approaches to developing self-sufficiency. He was included in the 211th Presidential Point of Light Award. Governor Schwarzenegger gave him a service award recognition for his work. President George Bush and the Family-Based Initiatives Conference in Washington, D.C. gave him recognition. Palmer established a Village of Hope on our old Tustin Air Base, and it is a shining light in homelessness in Orange County, and if you haven't been by it, you need to go and take a look. He also developed the House of Hope, the Hope Family Housing, Hurt Family Health Clinics, the Double R Ranch, Operation OC, the Tustin Veterans Outpost, which I hope we have time to talk about, the Inland Empire Rescue Mission, and Restoration Roasters Coffee House. He's an entrepreneur on top of everything else, and all this entrepreneurial work is done for the benefit of those who need it the most. George Bush nominated him for a position as director on the board of the Corporation for National Community Service, and 60 days later, he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate in that nomination and served there. And he holds this distinction. I told you there was a distinction that nobody else has. He's the first person in the United States to have served at 3 levels of government simultaneously. I don't know how he did this. He was a city council member with me in Tustin. He was a county commissioner for housing and a presidential appointee. So he's done a lot. And he was selected Orange County Local Elected Official of the Year during his time on the council with me. I could go on and on and on, but I want to also point out that he's an advocate for children's issues and has fostered 9 children, adopted 3, and was Child Advocate of the Year in 1999. His kids are fabulous. He's fabulous. Welcome.
Hey,
glad to have
you so
here.
Much.
Thanks for coming. So lots to cover on stuff with the Rescue Mission, Jim, but let me start with, give us all an overview of the Rescue Mission and where it came from and how it began.
So the Orange County Rescue Mission's been around for 52 years now, started by Lewis Whitehead, actually on the former Marine Corps Air Station in Tustin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He worked in the kitchen, gathered food, took it out onto Red Hill, and fed homeless as they were coming up Red Hill. Then moved to the city of Santa Ana when he got out of the military and gave birth to the Rescue Mission there. And funny little story, city of Santa Ana got upset with him back in 1972 because there were 12 homeless people in Santa Ana, and the businesses were concerned that maybe he attracted them there.
Yeah.
But that's how it began, and now I've been there 27 years, and we now have 14 campuses.
What drove you to do this work? I mean, why did you pick this? Why homelessness?
I think I was picked. Born and raised in Newport Beach, we were not a wealthy family, but a neighbor down the street came and knocked on the door one day, and the husband had committed suicide. Oh. And the mother and child were left behind and said, what do we do? And so I'm 14 years old, so I call my teacher, the principal, call City Hall, nobody returns my call, and felt I need to do something to help. And that very quickly turned into a calling for the rest of my life.
Well, and it has been. So tell us about the campuses you operate. Tell me, you've gone beyond the rescue mission in Santa Ana with 12 homeless.
Yes.
So let's talk about what you're doing.
Yes, we have grown quite a bit. We now have 14 campuses between our homeless campuses and our healthcare areas. We have a 142-acre ranch in Warner Springs. We have the Village of Hope, which serves 265 homeless men, women, and children in Tustin. We have the House of Hope in Orange. We have Hope Family Housing in El Medina, Orange. We have Hope Family Housing in Buena Park, facilities in Santa Ana, facilities in Orange. You know, it goes sort of on and on for us.
Everywhere. Yeah. But you also are the chairman of something called the Hurt Family Health Clinics.
Right.
So talk about those. What do they do? Because it goes beyond just housing them.
Yeah, so our challenge was we used to send the homeless to UCI Medical Clinic, and they would line up for sort of welfare care.
Yeah.
But what would happen is the pimps and others would go recruit them right out of the line.
Oh my God.
So half the people I'd send would never come back. And so we decided, you know what, we need to create some kind of health care. So called my doctor, a few others. We started a little clinic where he walked in with his bag. Then we realized we needed a fixed clinic, but you know what it takes in zoning to do that.
Oh God, yeah.
One night I woke up and it was like God had told me, put it on wheels. So I get an RV, I turn it into a medical clinic, and it doesn't need special licensing.
Yeah.
So we became a medical corporation.
Yeah, and you actually, and this is a really astonishing kind of innovative thing, and it's sort of a glimpse into how Jim innovates in all of his programs. You actually started going into neighborhoods where you weren't even serving people and didn't have housing, but you knew that there were homeless there that needed medical care, and you were giving them care to help them get back on their feet.
Yeah, we could go into the motel environment where people were bedridden and provide services right to them to get them up to some level of self-sufficiency.
So, Jim, there's been an explosion lately of people paying attention to homelessness like they never have before, and it seems to people, I think, that there's more homelessness than there ever was before. Is that true? Do we have more than we've had before?
It is absolutely true. And a major cause of that has been AB 109, letting a lot of people, tens of thousands of people out of jail and trying to move them down to the county level. And then Prop 47 and 57 have literally doubled the number of people we see out on the street.
And it seems to me the dangerous thing about that is we're releasing people who are hardened criminals among those who are really lost and trying to help themselves and have either mental health problems or addiction problems, or they're just, unfortunately, they were one paycheck away from doom. And so that's not a good place to be releasing prisoners into that population.
No, it's not. And the problem is, California, when they do one really stupid thing, they actually do many more. And we meet homeless people now that have criminal backgrounds from other states because they now have heard that you can steal up to $950 from any one store and not get arrested.
Yeah, I mean,
so when the word gets out,
it's just bad policy. You become a magnet. So with all your decades of experience, given that we're having this explosion, what do you think of what we're doing? I mean, the notion now, it seems to me, is housing first. We need to scoop everybody up off of the riverbed or out of the Santa Ana, Civic Center, and we need to get them into permanent housing. Is that a solution? Do we just, house them up and then worry about their problems later?
I don't believe it works that way. I believe that about 25% of the homeless out there could use a rapid rehousing opportunity. But 75%, the housing piece is downstream from their core issues of alcoholism, of mental illness issues, of criminal backgrounds, things that need to be addressed. For instance, we heard recently in talking to some folks in Salt Lake City that used the rapid rehousing or housing first model. Turns out more people are now dying in apartments because that drug user on the street would have been noticed and taken to the ER, but when they're in their own apartment and nobody's with them, they OD and die.
Yeah, it is astonishing to me, the notion that people who have chronic issues can be just given a house and that's going to solve the problem. They haven't dealt with the chronic issues yet. I mean, that's what we need to be engaged in, seems to me.
Right, plus you and I know a lot of people that are struggling to do what's right, holding down a job, can't afford a place.
Right.
Affordable housing needs to go to those that are working on it.
So how do we address then, Jim, I mean, you've been at this for decades. What are the solutions we ought to be taking toward homelessness and drug addiction and mental illness? What should government be doing that it's not doing, or should it just stay out of it altogether?
Well, it needs to correct some things that it has done. We need to roll back Prop 47 and Prop 57. That'll address a large aspect. We then need to prioritize detox opportunities and mental health residential opportunities so that we can take people that fall into those categories, which is honestly a majority of those that we're seeing on the streets, and it can get them the kind of care they need so we can get them on the right track, get them into their own sound mind, then they can start making good decisions.
Well, the other thing is, and you've told me stories about this, that even when you scoop someone off the street and you get them into rehousing because you think it's going to work, at some point when they have to actually function in the house and they've been out on the street too long, they opt to come back out on the street, and I find that astonishing.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. We had the VA over talking to us about homeless because they'll put people into an apartment using what they call a VASH certificate, and the social workers were telling us they show up to a veteran's apartment and there's a box and a table, and that's like it.
Wow.
Because nobody has worked out the other issues so that they could get furniture, they could have a community that they're living in, that other people actually communicate and have relationship with them.
Yeah, and so if we were to spend the money that we seem to be throwing into this whole notion of rehousing on the detox centers and on the mental health care, and in some cases on the medical care that you provide through HURT and others that do the same kind of work, that, it seems to me, would be the first step, and we'd probably be better spending the money there, correct?
Absolutely. Otherwise, we're going to be using our police departments as heavily armed social workers.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Because they're then going to become the service provider.
So we've talked a little bit about what we ought to be doing. Let's talk about the things that are going on now that you want people to stop doing. I mean, I know you've always said to me, give somebody my business card, Jerry, don't give them $1. So let's talk a little bit about how do we stop enabling the behavior that seems to be hurting families and having folks who are already struggling struggle all the more.
Well, you know, there's a great example of that. You and I both know in our own city, we had a situation where there was an encampment, and we went to that encampment and started working with families. We moved the first family to a nice apartment. We went back the next day. We had 16 people we were working with. The next day we're working with the second and third family, and the first one shows up again. Someone calls and says, Jim, that family is setting up their tent. So we run over and asked them, what are you doing? And they said, well, there was nobody at the apartment complex giving us pizza last night. And you know, the gas cards help really well. And they don't do your laundry there. You have to do it yourself. And so what that meant, Jerry, was that volunteers, good-hearted people, had been going down to the city hall and doing all of this for the homeless, that when we got them a great place.
Giving them food and doing their laundry.
Yeah. And so that is the challenge. And a lot of times when we explain that example, people start to get it.
Yeah.
But it's if you're handing out constantly, you will create an environment that they're not comfortable taking the next step forward.
Yeah, you're enabling them not to stand on their own 2 feet rather than making them get that hand up that they really need.
Right, and we live in a time that entitlement is so strong that this particular group falls right into it.
So let's talk about the right way then, because you have 265 beds in our own hometown where you are doing it correctly. What happens when someone comes to the Village of Hope? What do you do in terms of assessing their need, and how do you help them get up and out and on their own, Jim?
So our candidate is the least the last of the lost. We're looking for someone that's hit rock bottom in their own life and said, you know what, enough of this. I want to get off the drugs. I want to address my mental health issue. So we bring them in. We run a full psychiatric evaluation, a physical health evaluation. We run their credit report and a Department of Justice background.
Wow.
And then we present it all to them to come up with basically a treatment program that fits just their needs.
Wow.
And then we bring them into the Village of Hope, which looks like a college campus.
It's beautiful, by the way.
They come in as a freshman. They start processing through all that information with a case manager on site. We have a medical clinic on site. We have mental health services on site. All of that happens there. Then they start moving into a growth phase as a sophomore. They move into a junior. As a junior, they're helping the next person that's coming in. And then as a senior, they're going through the Success Center. And we have a 96% success rate at placing them in an actual career, not a job, but an actual career that will help them be self-sustaining.
And that's what it takes, right? I mean, it takes this sort of years of hands-on working with someone, enabling them to stand on their own, to cure years of being out on the street, actually being an urban camper.
Right. Well, you know, Dr. Laura used to say, if you've been using heroin for 17 years, you're not going to knock it in 17 days.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I think we're looking. It seems to me, anyway, as a policymaker, recovering policymaker, that we're looking for the microwave solution to a problem that's been baked in for years for people. We're not going to get instant solutions to homelessness just by saying, here is your home.
Right. 50 years of a war on poverty not working. Yeah. We can't change it in 5 months. But you're right. This has become such a hotbed of activity. The front page story constantly, that people are panicking and they're looking for the silver bullet.
Well, and I hear people say, look, we're going to put 2,700 permanent homes up and we're going to move people into them. And first, I think, just because I've been in land use for so long, 2,700 homes where we're having trouble finding the ability to put housing in for those who are already working families that need housing and affordability. And then I hear, we're going to get them into this housing, but I don't hear how we're wrapping our arms around those people to do these several years of walking through those processes you've just been talking about. Who's paying for that? Who's teaching them how to fix a garbage disposal? What are we doing?
Yeah, I agree 100%, because you and I both have been trying to do affordable housing the last 20 years prior to the not in my backyard syndrome just going totally nuts. Right. Now that it's going totally nuts, how do you do that? I would love to see 2,700 affordable units come online, even if it's for just the 25% of the homeless that could use it. But the challenge is, where is it going to go and who's going to fund it?
Well, and I'd like to see it for the people who have graduated from your program through their senior year through the Success Center and are ready to actually go stand on their own 2 feet, and for working families, teachers, firefighters, cops that can't afford to live in the cities in which they police and serve and nurse. I mean, those are the important things for us to try to do in order to get somebody into housing. Trying to house somebody who actually needs mental help and detoxification is not, it's an easy solution to get them off the street. You won't have to look at them, but they won't be well. Instead of shooting up heroin on the riverbed, they'll be shooting it up in the apartment or the motel you get for them.
Absolutely.
How can people get engaged, Jim? How can they help the rescue mission and others who are engaged in doing the right thing? Where do they go?
Well, they can go to our website, which is rescuemission.org. That's rescuemission.org. Or they can call us at 714-247-4300. That's 714-247-4300. And we can help them plug in, if it's not with our organization, another organization doing something in their own community.
And if you have an organization and you're interested in doing this kind of work in your own community, Jim has worked with other organizations. That's how the whole Veterans Outpost was put together. I want to talk about that a little bit. But you can get a tour of the campus. You can call him and he will gladly show you it.
Absolutely.
And you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. It's not like any homeless facility you've ever thought of before. It is really, truly state-of-the-art, and all done without a penny of government dollar in it. So I'm proud of that. So talk a little bit about what you've been doing with veterans, and especially what you've done in Tustin, because I think it's a unique program, a real public-private partnership.
Yeah, I think we all love veterans, and especially those that have gone to fight for our freedoms. Absolutely. And those that have been wounded or come back with some challenges. And we started looking around, what could we do to effectively help? And we found out that housing was a huge challenge, especially for the homeless vets. Yeah. Because the homeless vets can't live in a traditional shelter. Too many things trigger their PTSD. They've been raised up, trained as a unit. So we worked with the city of Tustin and identified some apartment complexes that we were able to go in and rehab and beautify. And now we're able to put veterans in units again that were formerly homeless, and they're able to then process through our program. We've just seen unbelievable success.
Yeah, I think it's great. How many veterans are now housed in Tustin?
There's 24 in there right now.
Right. Do you have other projects? Have you spotted other places around the county?
We've been looking.
I know.
And we've been giving a lot of tours to elected officials, but for some reason it's just...
Yeah, it's hard.
It's just not happening.
It's hard to find infill development. So where we're going to find 2,700 homes for all you homeless people out there, I have no clue. But I'm delighted that you're doing the work you're doing. Thank you for coming and visiting with us and telling us about this. If you want to learn more about how to do it correctly, or you want to visit the rescue mission, please do reach out to Jim, to his website, and to that phone number, and he will get you engaged and get you involved in doing the right thing to help solve the problem. All right, so now I need you to stand by while I do our feature of the day. We have several features, and today you're here in time for for you can't make this stuff up. And this one is it just caught my eye when I heard it on the news. So it's time for You Can't Make This Stuff Up. Today's story is the Starbucks shutdown. That's right. In the wake of an unnecessary arrest of two men who were loitering at one of the bistro's table, the overly politically correct Coffee Connection will shut down all 28,000 stores, all on the same day, all for the entire day, to give their employees, are you ready for this? Unconscious bias training. That's right. They intend to wipe out any bias from their baristas that they have hidden in their caffeinated craniums. No bias in our baristas, says the left-leaning latte legions. So they're going to shut down all their stores. I don't know what day they're picking, someday in May. You'll have to look it up. You can't get coffee that day there. You'll have to go to Dunkin' Donuts. And really, everybody in one day for bias training because some manager pulled the trigger too quickly and got overzealous on some table squatters. You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, remember to tune in every Wednesday. Send us your dumb criminal stories. For those of you that are watching and love the dumb criminal feature, I think our next feature next week is How to Speak Millennial. Jim was telling me he didn't know I did that feature. You need to tune in and learn how to speak millennial. Next week's guest will be Chip Monaco. Chip wears so many hats, I can't believe it. He will come in and talk about his role as an executive at Waste Management and Government Affairs. He's chair of Orange County Taxpayers Association, and he's a candidate currently for council in the city of Orange, which is something that's developed since I invited him to come on the show. So he's a busy man with lots of hats to wear, and we'll ask him about each and every one of them. We want to thank you for being here, Jim. You get to take home your own Java with Jerry mug. Take that to the rescue mission. Of course, all of you know where to go to get this in a podcast or to watch previous episodes. OrangeSlice.com. We'll see you next Wednesday. Have a great week. Make good decisions, and we'll see you next time on Java with Jerry.